Hi, Jenny. Thank you again so much for taking time to do this. Excited to
Of
hear a bit
course.
about what you do and everything.
Great.
So, to start us off, could you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do, about your family, where you're from, and like what you do for work?
Sure. So my name is Jenny. I am 36 years old. I graduated with a degree in graphic design and photography from Cal Baptist University in Riverside, California. And I also minored in marketing, kind of thinking that that would help me pursue a career in maybe advertising or, using my photography for maybe that area, or even just marketing myself as a artistic contractor. So straight out of college, I did some freelancing for some brands, mainly churches in Southern California. Some friends that were launching businesses. It's kind of that exciting time where everyone's out of school and everyone needs a logo. So it was just fun to practice in that way. And then I was mainly wanting to practice or zone in, I guess, on photography. That's what I was really falling in love with in school. And that's what my, at the time, fiance, now husband, was also pursuing. So out of college, we started just shooting weddings, my husband and we would shoot between 15 and 20 weddings a year. And that became my main source of income. And because that was mainly a weekend job with editing in the evenings, I also was teaching at a high school in Northern California. I taught for 4 years, and I was the head of the graphic design kind of computer department for that high school. So I did that until, I graduated college in 2010, and I did that. Like, I worked at a high school till 2015, until my second child was born, and then just decided to stay home. And then from there, I just photographed weddings for till now, pretty much. So stopped working in the normal, maybe a more traditional job, just so I could be home with my kids, and we homeschool, and then still shooting weddings and other sort of photography shoots on the weekends occasionally.
Awesome. That's so cool to hear about. Man, you were able to do a lot, and the different opportunities that you had and looked into are like super helpful too, in thinking about like, okay, I want to be a mom too someday, and like how, like if I end up doing some work in media related fields, like kind of how to implement that. And that's really cool how you were able to kind of like step back and really dedicate that time to your kids while getting to continue working on photography. So that's awesome.
For sure. I think that's really important. That's something that I wasn't even really talked to much when I was your age, and kind of in that season of, what do I actually want to do with this? And it's a passion too. It's something that I really enjoy. Like, it's an artistic ability that I even feel like the Lord has gifted me with. So, but I know I want to, more than anything, be a mom. So how do you reconcile that? How do you balance that? How do you pray for wisdom and discernment in that? And for us, it was sweet also doing weddings, because we got to do it as a couple. So we were already apart. Chad was working a traditional job during the week. So then even on the weekends, we weren't apart again, right? We were able to work together and spend time doing that, and meet a ton of new people, travel to a ton of places. And so in that season, it was, it was really sweet. And definitely recommend looking into career paths that would be possible to do from home, possible to do part-time. Important to, from the get-go, your boss is understanding that you want to be a mom. I worked for churches for a while too. And of course, like, they're so understanding and supportive of moms being able to be home. So it was, I feel like the Lord really just opened up doors for me that would then ultimately lead me to be able to glorify Him in whatever role I was doing.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I love that. So you already talked a bit about, so you already gave us a synopsis of your education and everything. Did you do any internships and stuff? So you went to Cal Baptist. Was that straight out of high school? And like, what kind of other things did you do? Was there anything else within that?
Yeah. I mean, I went to high school. Straight out of high school, went to Cal Baptist. I actually had a scholarship to play softball, so I played softball there, and that's kind of what led me to that school. And then it turned out that the department, there was no graphic design or media or photography degree at all by the time I was there. And then sophomore year, it was something that they started to introduce. And so it was really neat because I got to be a part of like pioneering that program. And I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends and professors from that era because it was really impactful for everybody. I interned at 2 different churches when I was at Cal Baptist. I interned at Rock Harbor and I interned at Harvest, which is a massive church in Riverside. And I just would work with the media department. So you'd work on anything from church brochures to what's the logo for Easter going to be to let's create t-shirts for the high school program. So it was really fun because I got to really just be like introduced to a bunch of creative people and see the difference of design between if you're designing something for a juvenile, for like kids men, the font is going to look extremely different than if you're like going to do a men's event. Right. And so it was just fun in that way to exercise creativity and learn from people who were also very artistic and very fun to work with, but also their larger vision was glorifying the Lord. And how do we bring people in? How do we attract people, even just like with a simple design, but ultimately the goal is to get people through the doors of our church, which was a neat way of, like the Lord can totally use these giftings for his kingdom. At Cal Baptist, I got to work with what was called like the campus activities team. So I was doing the same sort of thing where whatever activity the campus was planning, whether it was homecoming, whether it was, different socials, whether it was Powder Puff team, like I was helping design things for that. And there was also, like newsletter types of things that would go out, which was fun because I did yearbook in high school and I really loved that. So there was a lot of things. I tried to touch as many things as I could because it wasn't only important for me to gain experience in this world, but also to make the personal connections with as many people in administration and on leadership teams that I could, because I knew down the road, and still like I have people that I tap into all the time of those connections that I made from when I was young.
That's so cool. That's awesome that you were able to get experience in so many different areas too. And it seems like you were able to kind of lead yourself into an area where like for the future with being a mom and everything like that too, which is really neat. That's one of the reasons that I'm going into media arts, because I'm like, okay, this is something that even if like I didn't want to go into something where it's like, okay, I'm either fully 100% in for a full-time job or I can't do anything. So something along those lines where I'm like opening up that opportunity even in those little things that you led up to, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So one of the other questions that I have is, what are the suggestions for gaining employment in your position or industry? So that's, so I guess just with getting into something like photography or a media related field, and I guess in my situation, kind of more similar to yours, like, okay, with being able to plan for the future with Lord willing, having a family and everything like that. What are your suggestions for getting into that sort of thing?
With wedding photography, because that's mainly what I do now as my main source of income, I would just recommend shooting anything that you possibly can. I think the first wedding I photographed it for $400, and I worked my butt off and I edited for 40 hours off, but it didn't matter because I didn't have any work to show that I was worth any more than that. And so I would just recommend you shoot as much as you possibly can. You offer to photograph anyone who needs anything to the point where you're doing things for free because you're just looking to get the work. And then if you're looking to go more into And then also what's helpful with that is if you're able to make connections with people locally, to ask to come along. Okay, can I come along with you on this shoot? Can I help you with anything during that day? I'm offering my time for free. I just want to be a fly on the wall. I want to observe you, because so much of photography, what we've learned, it's more than taking photos. Like, the personality of the photographers is really important, especially on wedding days, to offer a calm experience. Just, it's a source of joy amidst what could be very stressful at times. And so we've learned from watching talented photographers, like, yeah, they're really good at that, or they're not great at that. And they've made this situation more uncomfortable or more stressful because they're pushing the timeline instead of being flexible, or, that's just one example. Mm-hmm. And then for design, I started just like volunteering my time at churches because I knew people. And so whoever was doing design at that church, I'd say, can I be a part of this planning process? I'm curious what it looks like to start, like, beginning, like, how do you brand this ministry? How do you brand this event? What does this look like? Can I just sit next to you and watch you? Can I be a part of it? Can I help? And then if there's smaller things, like, it was silly, but it was for like an adventure club, a one of something. When they graduated, they got a certificate. No one in the design department at church really wanted to do that. So I offered to,
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. That's fun. And sorry, are you still talking?
No,
oh,
you're
okay.
good. That was
all good. For a second, I thought that the audio cut out because I kept seeing things move. I was like, huh?
No, you're good.
So, yeah, that's helpful. And kind of like you said, jumping in, even like you were talking about with jumping in, asking if you can help people who have already done that. And yeah, that's really neat. Even at, Sydney's wedding, last week, Lauren was just like, hey, I need somebody else to come and help, like run a second camera. And I'm like, Lauren knows way more than I do about that. But it was really cool to have that opportunity, and I didn't even have to look for that one, but to be able to jump in and do that, because I was like, I never thought that being a part of videoing a wedding would be something that I would be a part of, but it was really cool to kind of test that out and try that too, which was really neat.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's perfect. And with this industry, that's really all that you can do. Mm-hmm. And then you might find out, I enjoy video more than I enjoy photography. Or you might see someone working and you'd say like, man, I feel like I have a great personality for that. Or I don't know if that's in my, in my giftings. I think the more that you're able to observe, and that's why internships are great too. Mm. I really liked working at a church. I found it super fun and just neat to be in an environment with believers. But I also found that it was tricky because I was seeing how much money was being spent I was working at a huge mega church. Like, Greg Laurie is a huge pastor in Southern California. So it was like, I was seeing how much money was being poured into media and design and things like this. And it sometimes was like uncomfortable because at the same time, we're trying to raise money for a missionary, but I know how much money we just spent on that campaign. And so that became something that I started to be prayerful about. Like, okay, if I ever were to work at a church, I'd have to wrestle with this. Like, is this truly good stewardship here? Is this department good stewardship? So there's, the more experiences you have like that, I feel like the more then you're able to kind of zone in on what you're comfortable with, what aligns with your values, what aligns with what's important to you. And just as a person, how God made you, like, what's going to be the best fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really important to think about those too, because you never know in each situation. And it's like, also, it does depend on the church and things like that too. So it's like being able to find the right spot and everything too. And one that, like you said, like does align with your values, because there are going to be some where it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to do something like that. But then there's other areas, whether church or something else, where it's like, no, this is something that I actually care about. And this is something that by making these things, it's actually making a difference.
Yeah. Something that I wish that that I've even thought about getting into now, like with how big it is for like people wanting logos or wanting design or just wanting little things like that I buy all the time, like is on Etsy, where I'm just buying like digital downloads of this cute Bible verse that has good typography, or, you know, homeschool banners, first, last day of school. I just bought a download for that. Or, you know, like there's so many things now where people are making passive income. They've designed it once, they've put it on their Etsy account, and now they get, you know, all these downloads of people purchasing it for $1, $2, $3, but they've only had to do the work once. And that's something I feel like is like really taking off for someone newer into design. If you have an eye for it, you're able to just create these digital files for people to download. And you're not even having to look to find clients. I feel like when I was younger, that's what we were having to do. And now it's like, no, I'm just going to create work, and whoever wants to buy it can buy it. And there's just a lot more opportunities now for people, I feel like, in digital media.
That's true. Have you done any of that stuff, whether that or stock photography or different things with your media skills? Have you done any of those things, or do you primarily focus on the event filming and stuff?
Yeah. We actually have a partnership with Shutterfly. So every year Shutterfly purchases a number of images from us. And so that's been amazing, because those are photos I've already taken and I've already done that work. And now they just look through them and they say, yeah, we want to use that for our Christmas card catalog, or we want to use that image for wedding announcement invitation examples. So they have been a client where they now buy stock images from us. Okay.
That's so cool. Man, you've got like so much different experience that it's awesome to be able to hear all about this. It's awesome. So another question, and you've already again kind of touched on this, but what suggestions would you have for professional development and kind of like education, internships? You did touch on internships, but like, what do you think is the most beneficial? In the sense that, did you like find that it was super helpful, the skills that you learned at college, or was practicing more of the thing? Like where do you think is the most beneficial area to focus on for professional development?
I think it depends. I think it totally depends. I mean, my husband is 100% self-taught, and I would say he's a more technically skilled photographer than I am. But that is because that is his bent, that is his leaning. Like, that's what he loves so much about photography, is how technical it can be, and how certain little changes that you make in your settings or in your editing, like, dramatically affect the quality of the photo. And for me, I could care less about that. I am all about the moment, the art behind it, the emotion that you feel while taking that, looking at that. That's what makes me so excited about photography as a medium. And so for me, college was helpful because it connected me with other creatives because for a while I thought I was going to go into marketing and campaigns and shooting photography as campaign work. So working with brands and getting to then go take them to a location and try to capture, whether it be, a clothing label or, shields or whatever, just being able to work with them and be like, okay, yeah, you want to take photos of the new fall line? Let's do that. And that's kind of initially what I was wanting to pursue, because that's what I was drawn to the most in school. And so it helped to be around other creatives that helped point out what to look for, what's important. For example, if you're taking photos, if your focus is on clothes, the way that you pose people is different than if the focus is on something else, right? And so it's thinking about that as the photographer, coming up with a vision board for that shoot, and really being the creative director on shoots like that is something that really drew me in. But then I realized when I became a wedding photographer that that's very much in line with that gifting of, yeah, there are moments where you're completely just capturing in it and it's very much journalism. But then there are moments that you're taking more of a creative charge of like when people just don't really know what to do. So you are having to direct, you are having to move people around. And I only learned that through shooting weddings. And obviously now, like, I mean, I still, for self-education, I follow photographers that are very inspirational to me. I try to listen to things on YouTube. I mean, now there's just so much that's come out in technology with AI of like how it streamlines editing, and things that would have taken me hours to retouch, I can now do with like one click. But I have to be on top of that and self-educating myself because I'm not in school anymore. So I follow a couple photographers that are very educational and helpful. I pay for a subscription for something for education. So for me, it's important to stay relevant. I never want to be like, oh, that photographer looks like she's old and her work is old. I'm like, nope, I want it to be fresh and new. We don't follow fads. We want our edits to look just beautiful and classic. Like for someone's wedding, it shouldn't look trendy. It should look like you could have shot that 100 years ago, in our opinion, or you could have shot it today because you want it to last 100 years and it still looks beautiful. So there's just certain things that we've chosen to do for education and for even self-preservation in this field, because now anybody can be a photographer. I mean, I'm seeing people shoot weddings on an iPhone and it's crazy. So you really do have to do things that you stand out in that way and make your client feel like you're worth what you're asking in price.
Yeah. Well, and that's the point that you brought up about like staying not just current, like the differentiation you brought up between like up to date but not trendy.
Yeah. Yes.
Is something that's super helpful that I haven't thought about before, just in the sense that you don't want to just like go with whatever trends are out there. You want something to be able to like look timeless and professional regardless of trend, because trends go up and down. And it's like, yeah, there are some things to incorporate and there are different coloring techniques and stuff for editing that it's like that people will want specifically, but then like taking into consideration like, okay, either way, we want this to be something that like it's beautiful when they show their grandkids in the future. Like
totally.
That sort of
and really the best for us, at least, like the best way we've like, I don't have it up in this current house, but when I was, shooting closer to 20 weddings a year, I would have a bulletin board of all these classic like photographs from the past 100 years that I just loved. Like, and I could point to them like, this photo, I love the greens and I'm going to try to emulate this green tone from a Fuji film in my photos. Or like, I love the grain in this black and white. This is a perfect amount of grain. Like, so I had inspirational images in front of me that I could tap into to look at, because sometimes when you're editing for 30 hours and you're staring at these people's faces, it just gets a little like, everything kind of starts to look the same. And everything gets a little like, I'm kind of like just, clicking things now. So it just helped me in that way. And then another passive source of income for photographers is they can create presets, which is pretty much like if you have a signature style of editing, now you can create presets so then other photographers can purchase. And so that became something, we actually never did that, but there are a few photographers where we have purchased their presets because we love their editing so much. And then it became something that, now we have built off of that to kind of hone in on our own style.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, yeah, I haven't thought about the selling presets and stuff like that too, because I've seen them come up. I still haven't learned how to use them, but cool stuff. Yeah. Would you say, so you're kind of talking about for education and like staying up to date on stuff. You mentioned that you have some sort of subscription for something. And then also would you say that the main way you stay up to date with things is more so through looking at different styles, like you mentioned, in different pages and things like that? Or what is the main way you continue your education in this?
Yeah, there's a few photographers that we follow that I would just say they're posting stuff like through Reels. Like, honestly, it's so it's so easy.
Yeah.
Just that we're able to, just watch like as they post things, and most of that is free. And then I would say the one I've bought 2 educational courses from 2 different wedding photographers that I really loved. And those tend to be more on the pricey side, but it goes through everything that you could really think about, as even from, this is earlier in our career, but just from like posing to how do you help them plan throughout the 6 months they're engaged. There's just like, it'd be like a huge resource. Like this photographer almost just created, like a textbook for 101 wedding photography, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. And it's neat that, again, kind of like you're saying, it's not as much about like you have to have like this super official thing, but being able to find the people that you actually want to learn from, and then being able to learn from the specific areas that you want to learn and the specific skills that you want to build.
Right. Yes. Something huge, I forgot to mention this, something huge Chad and I did when we were, I would say really going from, like, we really wanted to be able to double our price because we wanted to be able to work like less, but make just as much, because it was getting to that point where like, we had 4 kids, and like, this isn't like, we don't want to be away, every weekend. And so something we did, which now like it was so fun for us and super helpful, was we actually went to like a photography workshop where a photographer hosted something, and they went to Iceland, and we got to go, and it was like a whole experience, but it was super incredible. But even just to be able to post that, like, we did that and we invested in that for our brand and each other, it was like, it made like a huge difference and boosted like just our quality, like for people to see like, whoa, they just did this huge adventure. They're putting like so much effort into their craft. It kind of builds credibility in a way.
That's so cool. That's really neat. You said you got to go to Iceland for that?
Yeah, we went to Iceland for a week and worked with other photographers, and it was so awesome.
Oh, awesome. Love it. So another question. And just checking, what time are you good until 2, like we mentioned, or do you need to wrap up?
I'm just at Costco.
Okay.
Just grabbing some things. So
perfect. Love it. Alrighty. What would you say communication between you and your clients looks like?
Currently they reach out via our website normally, or Instagram. They just reach out asking, hey, are you available on this date for a wedding? And then we kind of start the communication process then. We send them what's called our inquiry packet, which kind of lays out what we offer, 8 hours, 10 hours, travel expenses, what to expect from us throughout the process. We've just found that's the best and most beautiful way that we can explain ourselves and what we offer as wedding photographers, versus just kind of like an ugly email going back and forth. We can send them like a really beautiful packet that has our photos throughout, and it just looks so clean. And it's something we've handed out also to different venues and different wedding planners. So when they have clients that come looking for a photographer that they don't have any booked, they're able to be like, oh, well, we worked with these guys. Here's their pricing packet. And we found that to be a super helpful marketing tool. So then from there, they just decide if they want to book us or not. And then communication back and forth after that point. If they've booked us, we normally do a video date with them, and we get to know them, ask them about themselves, ask about how they met, ask them, some questions about them as a couple. What do they enjoy? What's their vision for their wedding? What are some things when they think about their photographs and their album that they show their kids and grandkids? Like, what are things that they imagine in their mind, that they want to see? And everyone's different. Some people are really want those classic family portraits. And some people are like, no, we want to see like the fun dancing photos on the, and all the people that we love.
Yeah.
And so that's really helpful for us to hear from them. And then from there, it's pretty much, maybe touching base every other month until their wedding, just checking in, seeing how they're doing, seeing if they need anything. And then about a month before their wedding, I send them like a wedding photography homework packet, which goes through how do we organize the family portrait time? What's the timeline for the day? What are some must-have shots that you guys have thought about? And yeah, it's kind of just we've noticed that's been really helpful because it flushes out expectations and it helps us really work with them of like, okay, we know you've worked with your planner on a wedding day schedule, but now because you've hired us as like photography professionals, like we need to change this golden hour to be 30 minutes earlier because of the way the sun is setting that day. And that's not always something that, video or the wedding planner is working through with them. So it's really critical for us to go over the timeline with them and make sure all of that looks good.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
That's cool. How do you figure out, kind of like you were talking about with like golden hour and stuff, is that something that you go to the venue and kind of see when the best time would be? Or is it more so something that, like, how do you find out what the best time for that would be?
You can do it all digitally now. I mean, you see that we use Google Earth, but you're able to, like this wedding we just shot last weekend in San Francisco, we had never been there. And obviously now we live in Idaho. Like we can't go and scout that location a day early. So we just look on a program called Google Earth. You're able to type in the date that you're looking at and the exact location. And then you're able to tilt the earth like to the point where you're able to now see, okay, if I'm standing in this location, because actually it's a really good example because it made a huge difference when we showed the couple this. The coordinator they were an hour off on the time of the sunset because they were just looking on their, phone, when does the sun set? But we were able to show them, well, actually, because you guys are shooting in the hills right here, the sun is going to dip behind this hill a whole hour earlier than you're anticipating. It's not, you're going to miss golden hour if we shoot at this time. And they had no idea. So it was really good that we were able to do that. And it's a huge tool that we utilize all the time. Even just with shoots now, we don't go and adventure and scout as much as we used to. And so we use it even now when we're doing like family shoots or whatnot, we're going into the foothills. It's helpful to see where the sun is actually going to be at that time.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's super neat. I didn't know that you said Google Earth had that, because like I got a couple apps specifically tailored to like, okay, where are the shadows? Where's the sun setting? Yeah, like kind of all of that. But yeah, that's neat.
There's cool. Another one called Sunseeker. That's a really good app that we'll use when we're on the location.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Let's see. So 2 other questions. What would you say are the best, what would you say is some of the most helpful knowledge that you gained while at college? And then also as you and Chad were starting the business, like what's something you learned, basically while in education? And then what did you learn through experience more so?
Yeah. For education, I mean, I learned everything at school. Like I had no experience at all with I bought my first camera used pretty much to take photography 101 in school, and then with Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, I learned all of that in school too. So for me, definitely it was, learning how to use the programs, working with professors that had a ton of knowledge and a ton of experience in those specific fields. So for me, college was super beneficial, but I also don't think it's needed because Chad has now taught himself everything without going to college. But, I was there, so that's what I did. And for on the field, like in person learning, I think what we had to learn was how do we differentiate ourselves, like when there's all these other amazing photographers, especially in California, right? Like there's just so many. And so as a couple, like what makes us special? As people, like what makes us special? What's going to make us stand out? Because at the end of the day, almost anyone can buy a camera and then buy presets and shoot it, right?
Yeah.
And so our work became not as special. It was more the experience that we were offering our couples of, no, we're going to be a vendor that's in your corner. We want to hear what's most important to you. And we're going to make sure that those images happen. And we're going to be there. And I tell my brides still, like every time I first meet with them is, you know, I'm going to be the person by your side the entire wedding day, like more than your mom, more than your maid of honor, more than your husband. Like it's going to be me. Like I'm going to be there with you. And we have to make sure that like, this is good chemistry, that we have like a sweet bond of friendship, because I have been around photographers that like, I can tell like it's tense between them and other people, or them and other vendors. And like, ultimately, like all the vendors are there to work as a team to bring the vision of the bride and groom to life. But there's selfish people in the industry, and that's not always what goes down. Like sometimes vendors are really there to push what they want to do, and it can become very tense and stressful. And so I think it's our job to help educate brides and grooms, like what bad experiences are too, because most of them have only been married. This is their first wedding. So they've never experienced, unless they've been a bridesmaids or groomsmen that have experienced, you know, something like that, which we've had those stories where they're like, oh yeah, our photographer was so awful in my best friend's wedding. It's like, yeah, totally. Like, and that sucks. Like that sucks to spend that much money and then to feel like you did not have a great experience. Like at the end of the day, it's more than just, you know, the 5,000 photos you're going to get back in the album. It's what do you remember about your photographer that day that made it like just a great experience for you as a couple? And ultimately, like our goal is that our bride and groom walk away feeling like Chad and Jenny are some of our best friends. Like that was so fun. They felt like guests at our wedding. And like, even just like this last wedding, after we were off the clock, the couple was like, no, please stay and dance. Like, please hang out for a little bit. Like, we want to dance with you guys. And it's like, you don't want anything more than that at the end of the day, for them to feel like you weren't someone I paid, like you were someone I invited as a friend.
That's so cool. That's something that I've never really thought about. Again, like before with that, is just in the sense of the importance of you guys really clicking with them, because there's obviously the normal, like, okay, any business that you have, you want people to think that you're nice and friendly and that you do service well, do an excellent job. Like those are the kind of standard things, but to like really put an emphasis on that and how much better it makes it. Even like your photos are going to turn out better because of how amazing you and Chad are with connecting with people and everything like that, like making them comfortable. I didn't think about just how impactful that is. And
well,
like
a lot of times, right, like the couple has never taken photos like this before, where they're like the center of attention. They are having to be like genuine and loving and like cuddly, but like it's like, wait, I just have to like you're kind of asking them to be a model in that moment, right? And so if they don't feel comfortable with you as a photographer, like they're not going to feel comfortable like acting genuine in front of you. So if you're asking them to like, okay guys, now get close together and kind of nuzzle into each other and really embrace this moment, but you've been like, you know, if you haven't had a great experience with them that day, they're not going to be able to take a deep breath and put themselves in a moment to where they feel comfortable doing that. They're going to just be like, okay, this is awkward. This is weird. And your images are 100% going to reflect that. And so the more natural and genuine and comfortable we can make them, the more genuine their photos are going to look and the happier they're going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool to think about and so helpful. Whether it's wedding photography or other stuff too, just thinking about how much better the experience will be when you're not just trying to when you're actually trying to enjoy yourself and actually trying to connect with these people, no matter what area you're in, to just like genuinely be there and be excited for them and everything like that too.
For sure. They're not just a job, right? Like they're not just a paycheck. Especially when you're working with people and it's their wedding it's the most important day of their life, you know? And so we definitely see it as an honor when we are asked part of that, for sure.
That's so cool. Oh yeah. And also this is touching back on something that you had a little bit ago, but I also thought that it was really cool how you were talking about just the different ways that you and Chad have been able to learn, because it's not at all that either way is necessarily a better path than the other, but it's really cool to see the ways that you guys gained skills in different ways, and kind of like you're talking about with how Chad really has the technical side and like really enjoys that. Which was interesting because I would have expected the more creative side to come from the opposite direction of like, okay, like creativity of just get out there and start taking photos, and the structure side to come from college. But it's really cool to see that kind of flipped and how that came out in different ways. And it makes me interested in like learning more from both sides of being like, okay, I need to like advance the technical side, but then also just get out there and have some fun like you do. So that's so cool to hear, because it sounds like such an amazing mix for you guys being married. It's awesome. And then also just as being able to work together in that way and having those different talents and everything, which is really
for sure too. It's fun. We balance each other in many ways. We are very opposite in many ways. And so we have seen that come out in our work and how we even interact with people, and being able to bring that personality to, again, like being able to bring that personality to them when they are maybe in a stressful moment. Like Chad's so funny and he doesn't take anything too seriously. And it's just, like, so just to have his presence, is helpful. And there's times where I can tell like he's really focused and he needs to change up cards, and he needs to make sure everything is backed up. And it's like, boom, boom, boom. And things are moving very fast on a wedding day, and you can't really do a do-over. And so I'm able to sense, okay, he needs to focus. I need to be talking to the couple. I need to be talking about and like kind of distract them for a moment, so Chad can have time to like make sure everything is good and he feels comfortable.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. I love that. And kind of like you were just talking about with like playing off of each other and being able to read that too, because it's not just about focusing on the couple and all of that. It's like, okay, being able to bounce off when one person needs a little bit more time to get a couple shots here or something. And just like, it's really cool. Really cool.
Very much a team on that day.
For sure. So last question is there anything else that you think would be helpful to share or know or anything like that? It's open.
No, it's open. I feel like your questions are so good. It was actually really fun because there's things I haven't thought about in quite a while. And so it was fun to talk about with you. I can't think of anything like off the top of my head that you didn't bring up that I feel like is critical. I feel like your interviewing skills are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a work in progress.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, man. Awesome. Thank you so much again for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was a huge help.
No, it was so fun.
And it was awesome to learn more about what you do, because, I mean, we're in small group together and, like, we get to do stuff like that, but I feel like we haven't gotten to talk as much about what you do, and it's really cool to kind of hear your whole story with all of that. It's super neat.
Aww,
so,
yeah, that was fun.
More.
Oh, yeah, I'm here for you, girl. Anytime you need it, anytime. I got you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Sophia.
Bye.